to a new series of videos, Cosplay in the Kitchen. Since Dragon Con is canceled this year and pretty much every other opportunity to cosplay or dress up, I thought, why not dress up at home and continue to do the things that I love? The inspiration for today's recipe was this pirate outfit. If you were a pirate, one of the things you'd be concerned about is scurvy. And it just so happens that it's also cherry season. I picked up a couple of bags of ripe cherries at my local grocery store earlier this week. Now, cherries have a pit in the middle, if you didn't know that already. So in order to make this video and to make this recipe, which is cherry jam, by the way, I needed to buy a new tool. Now, I had never purchased a cherry pitter before, or an olive pitter, or a pitter of any kind. Last year, I used a knife to get the pits out, like so. I just kind of cut around the cherry, pulled it apart, and then kind of cut out the pit with my knife. And as you can see, it's quite a lot of work. And I often ended up losing part of the fruit in the process. It's not ideal. Not only that, you end up with a lot of cherry juice on your fingers, and it stains, I'm here to tell you. So what's a pirate to do? Well, I went on Amazon and I looked for a cherry pitter. I watched several videos and read lots of reviews. The best rated one that I found was this one made by OXO. It has kind of a rubber handle here, which is good for grip. It's got a metal piece in here that pushes out the pit. You put the cherry right here. And then it has this little splash guard so that the cherry juice doesn't go everywhere when you push the pit out. I'm going to demonstrate how it works for you. I've got a bowl here where you can see I've already pitted a couple of cherries. So I just take the cherry, place it in here, and press out the pit. Voila! And the cherry is pretty much intact, which if you were just eating them fresh would be perfect. In this case, I'm going to make jam with them, so I don't need them to be perfectly pristine, but I would like to keep as much of the fruit as possible. So the next step is just to take all of my rinsed and destemmed cherries and remove the pits. So now that my cherries are pitted, and as you can see, I didn't do all of them because I want to save a few for the boys to do. They love making jam with me every year. But I've pitted some so that I can show you what I'm doing. I'm using my Instant Pot to cook my cherries in, but you cannot use your Instant Pot to can unless you have one that is specifically meant to be used as a pressure canner. This one is not, and I'm going to use the water bath method when I get ready to can my jam. But for now, I'm just going to cook my cherries using the sear setting on my Instant Pot. So I'm just going to put my cherries in. My sugar. And a little bit of lemon juice. The reason I'm using lemon juice is because I don't like to use pectin. I like to do my jam the old-fashioned way, the way my grandmother would have done it, and that's just to cook it down for a long time until it gets thick and produces the pectin needed. Now, cherries don't produce as much pectin as, say, apples would if you were making like an apple jam. So I'm going to add a little bit of lemon juice to add the acidity to encourage the cherries to break down and produce that pectin and turn into a nice jam. Depending on how juicy your cherries are, you may or may not need to add a little bit of water to your cherries as they're cooking down. Mine are fairly juicy, but I like to add a little bit of water just to make sure that I get a nice consistency on my jam. Even if I put too much in, I can always just keep cooking it down until the excess water cooks off. You see my cherries, and there's sugar and water in there. It's heating up and it's all melding together. And while these cherries soften up and get warm, I'm going to get my stick blender ready, my immersion blender, to blend up the cherries so that I have a nice consistency for my jam. I find that this is a fun way to take out aggression. I like to find the little cherries in there and just mash them up and blend them. Uh-oh. I think I heard a pit in there. But that is one of the good things about using this immersion blender. You'll find a pit if you've dropped one in there by accident. While my jam is boiling away, I've also got a pot of water simmering over here. It has my jars and lids in it so that I can can it when I'm done with the jam. It's important when you're canning to use a recipe that you have used before that has been tested and shown to be safe. If you've never made jam before or you've never canned before, I recommend going to the USDA website. They've got some great recipes on there and lots of tips to help you get started canning. Doing water bath canning at home is actually pretty easy, and if you've got a garden, this is a great way to preserve what you've grown. It's also a great way to preserve things when you find them in season. For example, these cherries, while I can typically buy cherries year-round, they're not as delicious, as sweet, or as well priced as they are when they're in season right now. Alright, now I'm going to pull my clean, hot, sterilized jar out of my water bath. Drain off the excess water. And put it on this towel. This is a canning funnel. You can see it's got a big opening on it. This fits right into the mouth of my jar, and it makes filling the jar much easier. So I'm going to put my jam into the hot jar. Then I'm going to get a lid and a ring, put it on it, and then we're going to simmer it in the water bath. I've left about 1/4 inch of headspace on this jar. That's going to ensure that there's room for it to expand when I'm boiling it in the water bath. Then I'm just going to wipe off the edges with a wet paper towel to ensure there's nothing out here that's going to interfere with the seal. And I'm grabbing a lid out of my hot water bath and placing it right on top. And I'm going to put a ring on and seal it until it's finger tight. Now, my jar of jam is ready to go in the water bath. You want to make sure that the water covers the top of your jar and boil it according to your recipe instructions. My jam is going to take about 10 minutes. Now the only thing left to do is remove the jars from the water bath and let them cool. And you want to hear the button pop on the top of these jars so that you know they have sealed. Sealing should occur within 24 to 48 hours. The only thing left to do after that is to label them with the date that you made them, the variety that they are, and enjoy them. This is a jar that I made last year in August, so right around the same time, cherry time, and I'll just open it up to show you what it looks like now. This jam is a beautiful bright burgundy color and still delicious. I hope that you've enjoyed this first ever installment of Cosplay in the Kitchen. If you want to see more, leave me a comment down below. Maybe you want to see Squirrel Girl making roasted nuts, or you want to see the Little Mermaid cooking up some shrimp. Whatever it is that you're into, let me know in the comments below.